Welcome to the Rise Above the Grind podcast, where I have an amazing conversation with a guest expert around what is the grind, how do you define it, and then what do you do about it? Because in this age of disruption where nothing is going back to normal, everything's up for review, we get live insight and intimate insight into how successful entrepreneurs and real estate investors get to use this terminology and how they're thinking about things in real time. So it is my honor, my privilege, and my pleasure to introduce you to Wendy Babcock. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. I'm just stoked about everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. We met once upon a time in a similar Zoom room where we're just like, hey, I think we need to have a chat. And when then that zing happens, and you're just like, oh my goodness, we have to spend more time together. I totally vibe with what you're about, and I want to have more opportunity to explore ways we can be synergistic. So, I am jazzed to have this conversation. And so, you've been up to some amazing things in the world. Your story is incredible. Bring us in for our first topic of conversation is how do you define the word grind?
So for me, right away, it's like a negative connotation in my brain. When somebody asks me like grind, I think hustle mindset, hustle culture, doing things. For me, it's like doing things everybody else's way, which is supposedly the quote unquote right way. You're just grinding, you're getting it done. You're not really thinking it through. You're just doing the hustle. That's immediately, I didn't want to overthink my definition. I want to be like, okay, what comes to mind first? And that's the first thing that comes to me.
Yeah, and not do the hustle, even though you got the disco balls and everything going on back there.
Right?
But yeah, no, so I think it's important to understand like how words hit you because over time,
Sure.
as we grow, as we develop, the meaning of words can change for us. So this um guttural, I love that you were like, I don't want to prepare too much. I just want to like tell you what's up for me, what's here in this moment. Because I do believe that what's here right now is based on, our experience of the world at large. And part of the reason why I host this forum is because everything's up for review. And I loved what you said about like my immediate reaction to it is negative. It's
Hmm.
like doing things someone else's way, just having to gut it out and get it done. And that is one of the ways that grind shows up in that hustle and grind culture is like just shrink yourself down, smush yourself into this predetermined shape because that's the shape that the machine needs. Uh,
Hmm.
so how has that shown up for you in your experience?
For me, it's been exactly what you're saying, putting myself into boxes that I didn't belong in, right? Trying to figure out which things will just make me money. From the time I became an entrepreneur, which was back in 2010, I signed up for Beachbody. I did all the MLM stuff, right? I've done like probably three or four different MLM things before I became a speaker. And so that it's kind of the grind culture there, right? You have to be in people's inboxes sending these crappy messages you don't want to send because they're slimy, right? It's like, oh, I'm just here to get to know you, but you could use this new health product that I'm selling, right? So that's how it initially showed up is again, it was me doing what everybody else was telling me to do. And to me, it was just like just grinding, right? Just getting it done, doing it step by step and not putting a ton of thought into it. And I think now looking back, how I think, and I don't know if we want me to go this far into it, but how I've kind of shifted the mindset around it is now I'm intentional, right? So I do have a lot of hustle in me for what I do because I do a lot of my own work. I only just recently this week took on a VA, which is like, whew, the angels are singing behind me, like, oh my God, you got a VA. But it's changed because I've brought everything from up here back here to this focus now, where everything I do must be intentional and it has to align with my mission. And I'm doing it my way. I'm picking pieces of things that I've learned over the time and kind of like adding it to my personal box, right? I don't have to do it exactly the cookie cutter way everyone else is doing it. I get to choose what works for me. I've learned about human design and gene keys and what works best for me specifically so that I don't feel like I'm just the wheels are turning, but I'm not going anywhere. And so that's how it shifted for me.
I love that. It's this quote from my cousin Vinny. You know, when you're stuck in the mud and you put your foot on the gas, the wheels are grinding and you're just not going anywhere.
Yep.
I don't, that's not the quote, but that's what
I
comes to
love it.
mind. It's like this abundance of effort that we view in the rearview mirror as like having spun our wheels or having spun us out or made us depleted.
Yep.
Um, but I love that you use the phrase well, I'll go back when you were hawking products where it was like, "Hi, just getting to know you, but not really." Like there's
Right.
a hidden agenda here. Into like personally being intentional with your work and aligning you aligned the focus of what
Hmm.
hustle energy could be. It could make it grindy, but when you're aligned with what really is purposeful and what matters to you, you're putting your own stamp and creativity in it. It feels like flow. It feels now like
Yeah.
focus. I love
That,
that.
and that's exactly it. It's the flow, it's the alignment. And I never really understood what people meant when they would say that. Oh, it's just not aligned. I'm like, what do you mean? And now I know what that means. I can feel if something's aligned for me or if it's not. And I work from that even in sales. It's all about alignment now. And what feels good that I'm not pushing sales, I'm bringing in aligned people that I can work with.
And that, oh, ooh, can we just pop that open? Because you started with like, I learned MLM stuff like 4 times over and it was selling, but it felt sleazy and it felt like underhanded. Fast forward now, sales with this creativity and this alignment feels like it's, I'm going to put words in your mouth, feels like service, feels like love.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Put those words in my mouth all day long because that's what it feels like. Like you're feeding my soul.
Yes. And
Hmm.
so it's so different. Like the same term can take on different meanings depending
Yeah,
on where your head's at. And so
100%.
this alignment piece, this like what you're doing that you feel passionate about, you feel called to do, your sales for it now feels like an extension of you. It doesn't feel like you're trying to get somebody to do something. And to me, that's been one of my personal evolutions along the way as well. Is like I'm not trying to convince people that something has value. I'm simply
Yeah,
offering something that I know is valuable and that people can benefit from. It's this like offer versus like this throw. And
right.
when so for me, like I too was in MLMs, and anybody who's known me for any length of time, my Consultress 1.0 was the Passionista. I learned how to sell in network marketing. It was my first course in how to, be of service and to be selling products. I wasn't selling my services at the time, but it really taught me how to just like drop in, be yourself, and like the sales flow from there. Now, sales can be very grindy, but it don't
Right.
have to be. So, how have you seen that show up for the people that you serve?
So what I've noticed the big shift is now before when I was selling like a coaching program, right? Because I was doing like the paid speaking coaching, which I love doing. I could do that, but and it was fine. I could teach it all day long, which is fine, but like I wasn't like in love with what I did. And again, I felt like I was convincing people to hire me, right? So now with what I do now, because it's working around women telling their personal stories. It's their story of transformation and how it connects to their business. Now I have what's the words for it? Kind of pre-qualifiers, right? They have to be on the other side of the thing, whatever it is, the transformation, and they have to be ready for it. And I can't make that decision for them. So there's no push in the sale. It's, is it aligned now? Will it work for you now? Do you want to tell your story? And if those, and of course, there's an investment. So if all those things align, it's a yes. Sometimes it's a yes, but not right now. Great. And what I found is when I work in that alignment, I'm like, okay, if everything's now and you're aligned, okay, let's enroll you in the next cohort that we're doing. If it doesn't, and they end up in one down the road, I find that the women for each cohort, we have up like between like 8 and 12 women per cohort, whatever. The ones that come in through alignment, like they just mesh so well and they become like almost immediate besties and they're like each other's champions through it and after. And you can't curate that. That has to come out of alignment.
Mm. I just want to highlight you can't curate alignment. Alignment has to be there.
Yeah, period.
Yep.
Yeah.
It shows up very similarly in these rooms. You know, I host this podcast, we have these amazing conversations, but we have a VIP audience that gets to take this conversation deeper with us post
Yeah.
broadcast. And I have learned over time to make the invitations, and I try to keep my head almost out of the equation, because as I'm going, you know, who are the type of people that I want to introduce to my guest? Who do I think would benefit? That's, yes, it's part of it, but I have to
Yeah.
listen to the nonverbal intuition around who I feel drawn to invite. And so when I open myself up to invitations from a space of desire rather than a space of obligation, it just seems to flow, and the right people show up in the
Yeah.
room, and we have an amazing experience, not only to be able to send out to you, dear ones, the listeners in the audience, but also for those of us who are going to say, we need to meet. We have to have a meeting of the minds. There's something we're meant to do here together in this
Yeah.
meeting space where we leave it better than we found it and leave each other transformed. I think that's the purpose when you were talking about having the alignment happen in your cohorts, that like it just seems to all
Mhm.
fall together at the perfect moment and they become community. Can you speak a little bit to that essence of community in as a part of your experience?
Yeah, it's so interesting because the women that I work with that come into this, right, they all have different stories. So it's not like they're all completely aligned as you would think, but and they come in as strangers. Most of the times, maybe one or two might know each other, but mostly they're strangers. And I tell them like, it might be a little difficult right now. On the first session that we sit down on a virtual call, like, okay, let's talk about your when moment. When did everything change? And that just opens the door a little bit. And I see heads nodding and someone else like, oh my gosh, when you said that, that was me too, right? So then we start that connection and the alignment, and they can kind of see why they all chose that particular time to join this cohort. And it's just, even though their stories are different, there's these underlying threads that tie them all together. Whether like the March group that came through was kind of the self-love piece, even though they all had very different stories and what they'd been through, but it all kind of tied back to one thing. And again,
Hmm.
you can't curate it because I don't even know as it unfolds if that's what it's going to be. I don't set out that way. So I almost have to do like an internal invitation. Like if I'm feeling stuck or in scarcity, is I have to do like an internal invitation of like, I just need to think about the women who need to have this in their lives, who need to tell their story and who are ready, and just kind of have the energy to invite them in. Not, I have to pull them in. I have to get everyone signed up. I have to do this because then it like stalls out. And then I'm not bringing the right people in.
Amen. Because how you show up is the magnet for people to come and experience your experience.
Yeah.
Ah, I love that. And that in and of itself is alignment at work. It's like I'm going to be the conduit for this profound shift for people, but I don't have to do it. I just have to
Yeah.
allow it. And I love
It's
that.
hard.
I think that's part of why we have some synergy, is because we
Yeah.
have to allow ourselves to be transformed by the work as well. We're not boss sitting at the top making all the decisions for everyone in that top down, you know, shape. We
Yeah.
are the magnets that allow people to have this experience, and we're a participant in it at the same time. So that's what I
Yeah.
kind of love about the business that you're building and the experiences that you're building. So where can people go to find more?
So for me, if they want to find more on me, just my website, which is my name, wendybabcock.com. If they want to learn more about their story and sharing their story, it's whenstories.com.
Not what stories, not how stories, but when. And
Yeah.
so now's the right time to take action. If you have heard something amazing come out of this woman's mouth, which is she drops pearls of wisdom, I feel like at every breath, don't hesitate. Now's the time. Go reach out. And for those of you who are listening on the broadcast channels, stay tuned. We have another episode queued up right for you. Don't go anywhere.